Hey, 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 everybody. It's Thursday, and you know what that means? Yes, that's right. It's another episode of The Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. It is episode number 66. I am Allister Carrington, your trusted realtor. We've got our main man and our main lender, Geoff Lee, the mortgage guru, as always, side by side with me. Geoff, buddy, how's it going? How was your long weekend?
Yeah, my long weekend has been We had some friends come over to Lindo Beach and just had a great time. I have some family down from Calgary, my sisters and their family, so we continue to have a great time. But you know what? I'm getting old. I'm getting tired. So it's just like I don't know how much longer I can last, but I am looking forward just to some nice peace and quiet. So
They
that's a
wearing
couple
you down,
days.
Geoff?
That's a couple days away, but you know what? Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, because to find good ones um, can be difficult. So bless them as
Absolutely.
much as you can.
Absolutely. I'm the same way, man. We came back. We had our little staycation out in Harrison. So we just got back yesterday. What a beautiful time it was, man. It was actually beautiful. We
Yeah.
got sunshine the whole way through. We got there Sunday, right? And it didn't rain until we were leaving yesterday morning. So it was beautiful. We had my sister-in-law and brother-in-law came out on Monday, and we all had a great time out there. And then the kids were jumping out on that big, massive little, like, or not little, it's huge, trampoline and blow up thing they got out there on the lake. It's unbelievable. So yeah, it was just a beautiful time. But same as you, man. I'm tired. I'm old, man. I can't keep going like I used to. It was 10 o'clock a couple days, and I was like, Michelle, I gotta go to bed. I gotta go to sleep. I'm tired.
Yeah.
So when I got home last night, man, I crashed. I was done. I slept well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a wonderful sleep.
I
Yeah,
know.
man.
I know.
Well, well, man, let's not waste any time today. Let's kick it with as we always do with the hottest segment in podcast right now, and that is
Did
right.
you
Did you
know?
know?
Did
That's
you know?
it. Did you know? So, Geoff, I got a great one because this one actually, I know we were talking about it offline, and this one kind of took me back to when I was getting transferred here with in my previous life, and I didn't want to get transferred here. So, Geoff, did you know nearly 70,000 people left BC last year? So I want everybody to let that sink in for just a second. That's the largest interprovincial exodus in 3 decades. 30 years. And if you guys don't understand, or if we're not clear on what interprovincial exodus means, it means people getting the hell out of here and living in any other province but this one.
Mm.
So here's the real kicker, though, because people like to sit there and go, oh, yeah, sure, guys, it was retirees heading to Kelowna and Nanaimo out to the States somewhere. Nope. It was mostly people under 40. In fact, 77% of them were under 40.
Yeah.
Young professionals, young families. Talent we cannot afford to lose. This is the generation that's supposed to be buying our homes. Maybe that's the reason why we've been having such lackluster sales. Raising kids and building their futures right here in the province that I have always been told built its brand on lifestyle. But now they're done trying to make it work. They're headed to Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and even further east, a lot of them landing in the Maritimes.
Mm.
Because BC's housing reality no longer matches the dream. So this all started with the Stay with BC campaign. They tried to rally people to stick it out, but when your rent's $3,000 for a shoebox, a slogan's not enough. Now I know, Geoff, you're going to ask, what's the Stay with BC campaign? So it was launched in 2024 by the Business Council of BC. Stay with BC was a direct response to Alberta's campaign of Alberta is calling. But
Hmm.
instead of luring people in, what it's done is it's actually held a mirror up as to why so many people are leaving. They asked, what was it? They asked 3,000 British Columbians why they're thinking of leaving. And the answers, of course, weren't vague. Housing affordability, high taxes, low wages, and overwhelmed public services were all the reasons why these people are leaving. So what we're seeing here now, I'm starting to believe it's not just about a market correction or interest rates anymore. This is now about affordability breaking people's relationship with this province. Because let's be honest, if you're making 90K in Vancouver and can't qualify for a basic condo, if you're working two jobs in Surrey and still can't save a down payment, if you're looking at Kamloops, Nanaimo, and Cranbrook and they're not affordable anymore, you start asking yourself different questions. Is it really worth staying here just for the view? Are we building a life or just surviving one? And here's what this tells me also, Geoff, that it's not that this is a provincial identity crisis where housing now, it's not a challenge. It's just clearly pushing people out. So now, Geoff, this is where it comes to you. What do you think about all that?
Well, one thing I didn't know that we had 70,000 people that are 40 and under leaving BC. That's actually very, very
Last year,
interesting,
1 year, 1 year.
which is very interesting. It almost reminds me of immigration of some sort when people are immigrating to Canada, that they have to check box certain things in order to get to Canada. And just like these other provinces, possibly taking our cream of the crop, it just reminded me of a conversation I had with immigration with Canada taking the cream of the crop of other countries, and having and hearing those concerns of those countries to say, hey, um, our cream of the crop is coming to Canada. We're going to have nothing for future generations to build on. And as a result, the country could suffer. So when I hear this, did you know, with regards to British Columbia, that's where my first thought goes, and then my second thought goes is why? And again, it's about that affordability, it's about that cost of living, um, and you're right. $90,000 in Saskatchewan or Manitoba is going to go a heck of a lot further than it is going to go here in certain parts of British Columbia.
Yeah, and if you think about what you can do just with investing that money somewhere else as well, it just you have way more leverage for your dollar. And I always remember when I got transferred here in my previous life, I fought actually, and I'm very open about this, I fought tooth and nail to not have to come here. And the reason being is that my salary didn't go up, right? My cost of living went up.
Yeah.
Every all the good stuff that I had back there and back in Manitoba where I had a house, I could invest, I could travel, I could eat out whenever I wanted, I could drive whatever I wanted, I could do pretty much whatever I wanted to do, all was sapped up as soon as I moved here into housing, into a
Yeah.
mortgage. And I remember just before leaving my previous life, a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, we were having a conversation about an article that we had read and talking about BC's inability to attract the top end CEOs. And the reason is that the reason why they couldn't come here was to make it beneficial, financially beneficial for them to come, or just not even beneficial, just to make it even.
Yeah,
They
apples to
had to,
apples.
yeah, apples to apples. They had to triple the person's salary, which from a business perspective isn't feasible. So that's one of the reasons why we had British Columbia was having such a hard time attracting top end talent, and the big thing was developing our talent within and keeping it here. And now we've gotten to the point where we can't attract top end talent because they don't want to pay the price here. And our youth, thank God, everybody, I'm proud of you guys for being smart. I am proud of you. I am proud of every one of these people under 40 leaving. I truly am, because I think that this is the important wake up call that British Columbia needs. Because these are the people, these are supposed to be our doctors, These are supposed to be our nurses. These are supposed to be our teachers. These are supposed to be our financial advisors. All of the people that are supposed to take care of us and make and propel BC to a higher level in the future, they're all leaving. So when our best of the best is has left, what does that leave us with? And no offense to the people that are left here, I'm just saying, right? It starts making you think that we don't have the best of the best running our province. So our province then will fail to be one of the best just by default. And so that's just one of the things now when you start seeing like we had another the market report just came out for the Fraser Valley and for Vancouver, and you're still seeing low sales in 10 year over year. You're seeing 10,000 listings still, but in the Fraser Valley, 15,000 listings in Vancouver. Right, Vancouver saw a little bit just and to be balanced. Vancouver's sales ratio was 13.8. Right, so that's a still balanced, but it's at a higher right sales ratio than Fraser Valley was still, and we still stayed at 11%. Right. So when we see all of this still continue to happen, right, it's starting to say, okay, we just have the people here that are just sitting and looking and not making a move. The people that are actually going to go live and buy a house, they've literally left and gone bought a home. Right. And so I think that this is just another peek through the window that we have to figure out another way to adjust everything here in British Columbia, right? And unfortunately, people will just say, well, raise wages, businesses make enough. That's not actually true, right? Like labor is the most expensive part to any company. So as soon as you raise labor, right, a company now, that's the difference between being able to stay afloat or having to shut your doors down. Right. So it's not as easy as raising the wages. Right. So it's going to be interesting on how we sort of fix everything, right? What everything looks like. And from what 3,000 people, right, have said, they were interviewed, housing affordability was number one, right? And not to mention, and the other two, the overwhelming pressure on the on the public service sector, right? I didn't even take that into account. And yes, that's doctors and dentists and all of that sort of stuff. People not even being able to get in or find a doctor. I know that that's an issue right now for people. They can't even find doctors because there's not enough.
Yeah.
Right. So just an interesting thing. But yeah, when I saw that 70,000 people left, that was one number that shocked. But then when I saw that 77% were 40 and under, that's probably one of the most frightening statistics that I've read in anything, whether it like real estate, mortgage, anything related. That to me is a terrifying, terrifying number. So my message is, British Columbia, we got to do better. We got to figure out a way to do better. We got to figure out a way to be better, right? We got to keep our talent here. We got to keep our talent here, and we got to figure out a way to continue to bring in talent.
So what are those ways in your opinion? If you were the premier of British Columbia, what would you do that would entice people to come back to British Columbia?
That's the toughest part. And me, even with a political background, I have that one. I'd want to think long and hard because this is right now is such a reactionary thing to say. Okay, well I would say we got to pay our doctors more because we do, right? We got to pay our nurses more because we do. Those are things that actually do need to happen because our nurses don't make enough. Our doctors don't make enough, right? I remember in Manitoba, even there was a hard time keeping nurses in Manitoba, and that's one of the biggest provinces in Canada for nurses. Their union is monstrous there. They were losing their nurses to Texas because they were getting paid, I think it was double, close to triple what they were making in Manitoba. So one of the things is, yes, our public sector employees have to get paid more money. That is one. That's one of the things that I would do. From a business perspective, we have to figure out a way to entice businesses to self-start. I think we need a lot more self-startups. We can't rely on big corporations moving in here, right? Because they've already got their financial structure. So they're not going to come in here and just start pumping in extra dollars. So we have to do better for startups, I think.
Yeah.
Right? And when it comes to housing affordability, the thing that I keep reading is the big push, of course, is prefabs, right? That is what the big focus is going to be with the government, with the federal government, is prefabs. The concern that I've been reading from the majority of analysts is they don't feel that we as Canadians are going to be open to purchasing them. So I think that is going to be the biggest mind shift that we have to help people understand, is the benefits of a prefab home, and that might have to be with incentives in purchasing them, right? But it is going to have to be, a lot of it is going to have to be incentive laden, and that's why I say it can't be reactionary, because when we're doing things incentive laden, that means we're spending money. Right? That means we're giving away money. And we all know what happens when we give away money. But we all remember what happened in COVID, right? It can go awry. So we have to do it smart, right? So we need to have the public sector and the private sector have to figure out a way to get along. They have to come together and be able to do this together. We have to have a round table of professionals from all areas being able to sit down and really hash out a smart plan.
All right. Well,
yeah, man.
I think you'll be up for a nomination for your party. I think, what is it, 2 more years?
2 more years? I don't know, man. The Conservatives don't like me right now, considering how much I ripped on them last election. Although I am in the good graces back of a few of them because I was right on everything that I said. But they were happy with the way I voiced my opinion. But who knows what happens in 2 years? I hope I'm still with you guys doing this, but it just might not be the real estate end. I might be the political end. Who knows?
Never know.
Never know.
You never know.
So, man, what do you got for us today?
Well, just kind of towing that same line of affordability and people that we're seeing a bigger trend with friends and family purchasing property together. Wanted to kind of talk a little bit of the pros and the cons of that, strategies around it. And again, it just really comes down to why people are doing it, and what it comes down to is affordability, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, because full disclosure, sorry, Jeff, my phone, I don't know if everybody heard my phone ringing for a half second before I hit silent. That was actually a client of mine whose daughter is looking at purchasing something with a friend. So it's actually cool that this actually all comes into one.
And full disclosure, I had no idea about your did you know and why people are leaving. So the stars are lining up here. So
right.
So co-ownership, like why, Allister, why are people doing it? When you're seeing clients of yours buying with friends, why is she buying it with her friend? Like, what is she coming to you and saying the reasoning behind it?
Well, our discussion was when we first started this journey, we were looking at condos. That's what we started up, and I kind of she got on the talks of I'm trying not to say that I told her not to buy a condo, but that's essentially what I did. I told her not to bother. I said if there's a way we can not do this and get ourselves into a different category where you could do a better job at building better equity, and doing more with your dollars, as opposed to putting your money in something right now that we don't know what that equity is going to look like in the next few years. We said, let's try to look at a different avenue. And she did have some friends that were thinking about looking at a half duplex. So it got into the topic of, what does a full duplex look like? What if you both went in on a full duplex and you both owned each half?
Yeah.
Right? What would that look like instead? And what would that look like for your dollars? So that's how that conversation and how we came from moving from a condo into a duplex is now what we're looking at.
Right. So that yours was more for investment on dollar and
Oh no, this is her first yeah, this is no, this is her first purchase. She's going to be living in this is her first purchase, but we thought if you're going to do the first purchase, let's set you up right because we were remember how we were talking about last pod the ability to spring from a condo even to a townhouse right now in the equity gain is it's not necessarily there. It used to be that you bought a condo, built up your equity, moved to a townhouse, then from the townhouse, used the equity there and moved into your single family home. Well, when you run the numbers, the townhome to single family, the equity in that is still there, right? There's still that ability. It's the condo to townhome that's suffering right now because of the amount of inventory that's gone into the marketplace, right? It's curbed. It's really curbed that equity. So that's what we wanted to do. I wanted to say, hey, if we can do this and get you accelerated financially quicker, let's do this. So that's yeah.
right. Well, we're seeing a lot of co-ownership in places like Vancouver.
Mhm.
We're seeing a lot of co-ownership in places like Victoria. We're seeing a lot of it in Toronto. And again, people are doing it because then they can share the down payment, they can
Mm,
share the mortgage costs,
yeah.
they can share the expenses. And again, for first-time home buyers and families, it's just a creative solution, either to get into the market or to get into the market where you can have a better strategy as far as what your first purchase is going to look like, or
Right.
maybe what your second or third purchase is going to look like. But at the end of the day, we all know that it requires some great planning. It requires some legal paperwork.
Yeah.
Obviously, it requires mortgage advice and real estate advice along the way. A lot of times, people believe that they're going into a co-ownership um, agreement. And I was speaking with a client of mine last week. It was a mother that actually owned a home, wanted to get her son in the ownership of the home, and said, "Well, I want to do a mortgage where he can, let's just use the place is worth 400,000 just to keep it simple.
Yeah.
It was a free and clear property, but I want him to get a mortgage of 200,000, which he in a refinance which would go to her, but I just want him to pay for it. I don't want to be responsible for it." And I was like, "Hey, well, that's great. It's a great opportunity for your son to get into the market. Love the idea, love the strategy, but also keep in mind that if your name is on this mortgage or on this refinance and you're pulling out 200,000 and adding to him, if he doesn't make the payment,
Yeah.
then you're going to be responsible for that payment." And again, this goes back down to advice and planning and legal agreements. And it came back to, well, I already own my 50%. He's owing the other 50%, so that payment is his. I said, well, I guess in agreement it is, but in actuality, how a lender looks at that is that the payment isn't his, the payment is all of you because you are on the mortgage
Yeah.
together, right?
Exactly. Whoever's on the title, those people on the title, those people owe the money.
So yeah, so that's the thing is that people sometimes have great co-ownership ideas, but they don't really understand the logistics behind it. Or even if you put something down into a legal agreement, that legal agreement may work for the son and the mother, but that legal agreement isn't going to say, well, hey, awesome, you have a legal agreement, so we're just going to go after your son for the payment.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you are on the mortgage and you are on the title, everybody is responsible for that payment. So somebody is going to pay it. Even though
Yeah.
that legal agreement of your son says he's going to be responsible for it, the bank is going to take a look at you and say, hey, that's a you problem.
Yeah.
This
Not
is a
ours.
this is a this arrears is an our problem and we need
Yeah.
to come to resolution, right?
Yeah.
So again, where I'm going with this is that there's a lot of creativity coming about with co-ownership, getting into the market, who you're getting into the market with. And again, that takes planning, that takes legal agreements, not handshakes,
Yeah.
or good faith conversations. and obviously mortgage advice to just to let you know on how that all works.
And understanding too the different types of ownership, right? That you're getting into, because that's a big one too that people don't know.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and again, those types of ownerships is called joint tenancy and tenants in
Tenancy in
common,
common.
right?
Yeah.
And it's important that you register this properly because if one of you passes away when you are in a co-ownership kind of an agreement and you all of a sudden registered as a joint tenancy, that basically part of the property that you own is actually going to your partner now, right? And that
Yeah.
partner isn't a spousal partner. That partner is a business
This
partner.
partner.
And now your estate basically is losing the ownership of that property. So understand there are two types of co-ownership. One is called joint tenancy, and that is often, if not always, used when spouses are purchasing things together,
Yeah.
or often when parents and children are purchasing things together. Because if something is to happen to either party, that equal ownership and right of survivorship then kicks in, and it goes to that survivor it goes on to the survivorship, right? The
Yeah.
right of survivorship.
Yeah.
When it's tenants in common, again, if it's registered that way, there is no survivorship, and then basically each party can keep their share. And again, this is where you want to have a will in place, right? What is your ownership of that property? Where is it going? Because if it's a tenants in common, then obviously your ownership is staying within whatever that your estate is dictating it to do through a will. So again, this is great if you're coming into a partnership or a purchase with a friend. It's great if you're doing it with investment partners. And again, if you're doing it with either one of those types of people, tenants in common is how you want it to be registered. If you're purchasing with your spouse, if you're purchasing with parents, or you're purchasing it with your kids, again, you want to do that, in my opinion, as joint tenancies. But again, I am not a lawyer. Alistair's not a notary.
Nope. Nope.
Very, very important that you get legal advice on this. But again, this is our opinion on it, which
Yeah.
again could be right or it could be wrong for your situation.
Right.
So the other thing too, when it comes down to mortgages, Alistair, when you are buying, if you and I are buying something, again, the lender is going to recognize our income, right? It is
Yeah.
also going to recognize our debts, and it's also going to recognize our credit scores. So a lot of times, when people are buying together, and we hear this quite often, is well, you know what, they don't make a lot of money. Maybe they retired early, but they have a free and clear home. Well, that's great, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a great co-borrower or a partner for you to buy this home, because they may not be able to qualify, or they may actually weaken the file when it comes down to what their debt load is, or what their
Hmm.
credit score is, or
Yeah.
how they've basically been doing with their credit.
Yeah.
So again, important to understand is that when you are doing co-ownership and when you are doing the mortgage application, your income is being recognized, your debts are being recognized, your credit is being recognized, and that could be a good thing, could be
Or
a
it could
great thing, but it also could be a bad
a
thing.
very bad thing. And that's what I was going to say is that, for lack of a better term, when you're doing this, you got to know who you're getting in bed with,
Yeah.
right? So you like, because all of these, you can't hide any of these things, right? So you got to know who you're getting in bed with and make sure you're comfortable doing so if you're going to go about this type of a transaction.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like I'm really famous for speaking in analogies. And my analogy is, and I think we've all done it, when we first move out, we're always moving in out with our best friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Me and Alistair are going to move in together. We've known each other since we were kids. We've been
Yeah.
hanging out. We went to school together.
It's gonna be
You
awesome.
know, it's going to be awesome. And
Yeah.
it is awesome in the beginning, right?
Right.
But the reality of it is, and I don't know if there's a stat out there. I'm kind of curious what the stat would say. Moving in with best friends, by the time that you leave, are you still best friends? And what is the stats to that? And I'm going to say there is a very high percentage that you are actually not even good friends by the time that you basically leave that agreement of renting things together. So it's the same
Yeah.
thing too, is one of the biggest things that you need to avoid when you're getting into a co-ownership, or one of the things that you it's not to avoid, but a must do is to get a written agreement in place, right?
Yeah.
The best time to write a written agreement, Alistair, is when everybody loves each other,
Absolutely. Right at the beginning.
right in the beginning. And
Yeah.
that written agreement is always going to be based on a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yes, we love each other right now, Alistair. We've been best friends forever and a day. But let's pretend we're the worst enemies, and let's write this agreement up as if we don't like each other.
Right.
Or let's just write this up as two adults, and let's say, hey, what happens if you're getting married?
Hmm.
How is this going to end? What happens if we no longer are getting along? How is this going to end? How's it going to end if all of a sudden you want to move because now you have a marriage and you want to buy something with your future, with your partner? Like,
Yeah.
how is this all going to look like? What is it going to look like if we don't make payments? And everything needs to be written in there with a lawyer or a notary, right?
That's what I was going to say, because there's always the one too. What does it look like if I want to bring somebody in
Yeah.
and I want you to move out? Right? Because it's not always is it do I want to move out with the other person? Well, sometimes it's the other person wanting to bring somebody in and they want to buy the other side out.
Here's a great one. You and I are living together. We purchased a house together. It's just you and I. Now you get a girlfriend,
Right.
and now that girlfriend is in this space
Right.
on a full-time basis. So
Yeah.
what does that agreement look like if that's to
Yeah.
happen? That happens a lot.
A lot. Exactly. Yeah.
So again, I think it's so important that when you are getting into co-ownership, even with family, I've worked on several files where brothers are purchasing things together, and then 5 years, 10 years are going down the road, and they just aren't getting along. So what are they doing with the property? And again, there's been nothing written because it's family. And again, they who thinks you're gonna not get along with your brother, right?
Yeah.
Or your sister or your mother. We see it all across the line with immediate family. So again, regardless of who you're buying with, be it friends or be it family, just so important to get a written agreement in place and to talk about what those disputes may look like and how those are going to move forward if those things happen. And that's comes with, like we said, life changes,
Yeah.
that comes with cost sharing, that comes with exit strategies, that comes with, you know, a billion and other things that real estate lawyers and planners have come across. And you're using their wisdom, their experience, and saying, hey, don't also forget this. Don't also forget to put that in, and making sure that everything is written properly. Because again, if it isn't written down, it ain't happening
It
sometimes,
it didn't happen.
right? So yeah, so again, where do we see a lot of co-ownerships? Your client there, Alistair, she's buying with a friend, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing tons of parents getting involved, helping their kids purchase property, right? We're seeing a lot of parents actually having to go, not only gifting the down payment now, but actually having to go on to the mortgage application in order for them to qualify for what they're looking for,
Yeah.
right? We're taking a look at a lot of people that are purchasing using alternate lenders and what that looks like. So again, there's so many different examples as how people are purchasing things together because here in Vancouver, here in Victoria, here in Toronto, I'm not talking Saskatchewan or Manitoba where you can buy or Nova Scotia where you can buy a beautiful house for 400,000, but
Yeah.
we're talking about high market areas that have a lot of high market prices. Again, Uh,
Even Alberta falls into there some at points in time where they've seen having to go co-ownership, pardon me.
yeah. Well, you know what? And again, you see it, you're going to see it in a lot of different kind of scenarios and a lot
Yeah,
of different types of price points. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, really where I'm going with this is that we're seeing more and more of it.
yeah,
We're seeing more and more downfalls or conflicts happen when there isn't a written agreement outlining exactly what needs to be done in it. We're getting
hmm,
a lot of people that aren't registering a property as far as, are we going to do this as tenants in common? Are we going to do this as joint tenancy, and really understanding on how that works? And again, it goes back to the power teams that we've been talking about, right?
yeah,
Lawyers and notaries. We're getting a lot of misinformation about, hey, if I do a co-ownership, this is what I want it to look like. Well, that's great. That's what you want it to look like, but this is how the bank is going to take a look at it, right?
right,
And
yeah,
just really getting a great understanding as far as how that is. And then once you've dotted the I's, once you've crossed the T's, once you've checked off the boxes, you can go into that co-ownership confidently on a best case and on a worst case scenario.
yeah. And I think like just like you said, I think this is gonna continue to be more prevalent, right? We've spoken about how housing affordability is causing British Columbians to leave, right? And I think one of the biggest changes that we're seeing it's a cultural change, right? So people are starting to look at other cultures who have lived, right, co-owned and lived with everybody under one roof for years.
Yeah,
Us as North Americans, we weren't used to that. We
yeah,
we're used to that lifestyle.
yeah,
Now, because of the cost of housing, we've had to adapt, right? And now we are sort of exploring, okay, what does that look like? And
yeah,
so this is so important because if it is going to become more prevalent, if it is going to be another way of having to, the way to get you in the market, then it behooves you to make sure that you have everything written out. Like you said, do it at the beginning when you're all smiling, when you're all hugs, and understand that you're not planning for divorce. It's kind of like a prenup. I laugh at
yeah,
people that talk about prenups being bad, right? Prenups are only bad if you intend to get divorced right after you're writing it, right? It's not planning for divorce. It's not planning for bad things, right? You're not planning for bad. You're planning for a just in case. Because if just in case happens and you haven't planned, then you've got problems, right? I have a friend of mine whose father passed away, planned on writing a will, didn't get it done, right? Now she's having to go through a mess of probate because that plan to do didn't happen, right?
yeah,
So plan to get it done so that if the just in case happens,
yeah.
everything's covered and everything works out easy. Because let me tell you, the reason why the friendships don't work out afterwards, right, is because you didn't plan. And now you guys are fighting because none of you because you don't agree, right? You were angry at each other, something happened in the relationship, you're angry now, and now you're trying to agree on something which isn't going to happen.
And you won't agree,
No, you
right?
won't. That's what I mean. You won't
So
agree. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, man.
that's all I got for you.
That's
Home
awesome, man.
ownership.
Well, yeah, that's sweet, man. Well, this was good. This was a nice tight pod.
Hey, we keep them clean, keep them
We
crisp.
keep them clean. No, man, I love it. Well, thank you all, as always, for sitting back and listening to us today. We hope, as always, we gave you guys some valuable nuggets to take away with you. Co-ownership, why 77% of our lovely British Columbians are leaving our province, and how to keep them back in here. For all of you politicians, for all of you in government that listen to our pod, please seriously listen to what we're saying. Figure out a way to keep our top people in our province. We got a beautiful province that we can't let go to waste, right? We need the best people keeping this beautiful province keep on rolling. With that being said, continue to like us, continue to love us, continue to share us, and yell from the rooftops about us. But most importantly, stay empowered, stay informed, and Jeff,
Stay tuned.
that's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.